Minister, while there are plenty of doctors in the Department of Health, there are very few technical postgraduates throughout our public service. And I hope that the one thing that we've learned as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic is that there is a greater appreciation of the need for independent scientific advice, both within our public service and here within the houses of the Oireachtas. And the most immediate and urgent need is for advice so that Dáil Éireann can properly consider the proposed carbon budget so that it is appropriately scrutinised.
Thank you very much to Deputy Naughten, and I want to thank Deputy Naughten for raising what I think is a very important issue. And I think strengthening the engagement and dialogue between researchers and wider society is absolutely critical. We have seen that very much, I think, during the pandemic, when we had expert advice, and largely when we followed expert advice, we did well during the pandemic. And indeed, when it wasn't followed, it didn't go. It didn't go as well, to put it mildly. So I do very much see as a core mission of my department trying to embed expert advice in policy making, and that's why my department right now is trying to create a dialogue right across the country with all stakeholders, including our public representatives, but also wider civic society through the Creating Our Future initiative. And this is an opportunity for a genuine national conversation. I know that phrase can be a bit hackneyed from time to time, but I really believe in it, where we actually get out there and engage, not just researchers talking to researchers, but our experts get out and talk to the community about the role of research, what role it can play, what role it should play. Ask the people of this country, what do you want our researchers, our scientists, and your taxpayers' money to be invested in terms of the opportunities and the challenges that really matter to people. We obviously have that roadshow travelling right across the country at the moment. We have a website where the people of Ireland can submit their ideas for topics that they think researchers should engage with, and we've had a really great response, including amongst elected representatives. And I am indeed want to take the opportunity in this House to thank Deputy Naughten indeed for the work you're doing directly with that initiative as chair of the informal cross-party group on science and technology. And I'm wondering, is there perhaps a broader role for that informal group as we go forward beyond the Creating Our Future initiative? Because this is an opportunity for members in this House, but also for staff in this House to learn more about the campaign, but also to begin to engage on some of these matters. There's also other valuable work undertaken by my department's agencies to support engagement. With the Oireachtas, the Irish Research Council runs a shadowing scheme in which researchers may shadow a TD or senators with responsibilities in an area related to their research. Science Foundation Ireland does also work with the Oireachtas Library Research Services to create opportunities for engagement with researchers, and the recent Public Service Fellowship pilot programme placed researchers within Oireachtas teams working side by side with colleagues on critical areas such as climate change and the economic, social and ethical implications of technological innovation. And indeed, I'd very much welcome the ideas of Deputy Naughten and colleagues in terms of how we can further strengthen those sort of engagements, because I see great value in them.
Minister, we all accept that science and technology are playing an increasing role in our lives, in our homes, in our work and even in our leisure activities. But yet there still remains a poor public awareness of science and its opportunities in Ireland, our economy and for our people. And I accept that Creating Our Future initiative is a very positive development to address that. But I also believe that we need to have a forum so the facts in relation to scientific development are brought into the public domain, and to improve the public's understanding of some of the complex issues like COVID-19, like vaccinations, methane and climate science, wireless communication technology. And one of the big issues at the moment, I believe, is that we must now grapple as a Parliament with the ownership of publicly sourced data, particularly medical data, which has the potential, huge potential within our health service. And while these matters are being dealt with in a piecemeal manner by sectoral committees, there is no central forum where it's, with the skill set to tease out these issues with the expert technical advice, the researchers and the specialists in these areas.
This is one of these questions that the deputy asks me that nearly gets me thinking, really, to be honest, in this space, and I'm very much approaching this engagement on that basis. I do agree with you in relation to poor public awareness of science, of research, of even our science and research sector in Ireland and what it's doing on a day-to-day basis and how vital it is. I mean, I make this point all the time in government, but there isn't a challenge we face as a country, or indeed as a world, that doesn't really require science or technology or innovation to resolve it. And it's important that so my department has a coordinating role, but it's also important that we embed that expertise in line departments as they're developing roles as well. One of the issues that I need to decide on quite shortly, and that I'm considering at the moment, I'm happy to share with you, is the role of the Chief Scientific Advisor. At the moment, you'll know the Chief Scientific Advisor and the Director General of SFI is one of the same. And I'm not talking about the individual person, I'm talking about the role. And one of the things I need to think about is how we want our chief scientific advisor as a position to sit within our public policy making infrastructure, and how we want to support that person and make that person available to public discourse and public policy making. And I'd welcome any suggestions from you on that.
Minister, I'm glad you brought up the issue of government, because during my term in government I had a vast array of technical issues that I had to deal with right across government, and we were far too reliant on external advice. And while external advice is important, it must complement the expertise within government itself. And right across our public service, we need focused incentives for those who are within the public service to actually upskill, to attract those skills into government departments, so that we can provide a better understanding of the technical advice that is presented. And I think internships like the ones that you've referenced for researchers can give them a better understanding of how government works, about how decisions are made, but most importantly, get them to acknowledge that the advice is the best available advice at that point in time, and not waiting for the perfect solution in an academic paper in 5 years' time.
Yeah, look, I think we've an excellent civil service in this country, but I also think that it needs to be complemented by expert advice, or indeed, as you suggest, providing opportunities for people within the civil service to gain that expertise. As a minister, you can be a generalist, and you're reliant so much on the expert advice that you receive. And I think the more we can embed that within public policy making, the better. Now, I do have, and I won't have time to read them out, but I will send it to you. I do have a very lengthy list here of some really good examples already of where Science Foundation Ireland's public research fellows are carrying out work on behalf of a range of government departments. So Trinity College, for example, for my own department, is doing a project on the development of standardised classification scheme for public investment in research. The Department of Children, the Houses of the Oireachtas, many Houses of the Oireachtas projects, Deeper, the Food Safety Authority of Ireland. So we are very much making our agencies available to government departments. I suppose my message to everybody involved in public policy is that's a service we're willing to provide, we're happy to provide, and we're happy to further resource. But I'd love to have a conversation, maybe at a committee or in more detail, as to how we can embed that expert advice in public policy making, because there's no doubt it will lead to better public policy.